human beings. You're all that is, ever has been, and ever, ever, ever shall be. And thank you so much for joining me. And let's just take a moment to kind of center ourselves and get focused, because we're going to really go very, I guess, down the rabbit hole, through the looking glass, or deep into our concept of reality. And I'd like you to just tune in, kind of let the monkey mind and the brain chatter and the programs that are running in this 3D reality go. And you can do that by just following your breath as you breathe in, I am, and exhale, peace, peace, peace. And breathing in again, I am, and exhale, infinite, infinite, infinite. And one more time, breathing in, I am, and exhaling, love, love, love. And the last time, breathing in, I am, and exhaling, infinite source, source, source. And just feel that divine spark of infiniteness igniting in your heart of hearts, in the very center, the core of your being. And know that you are infinite, infinite, infinite. That is the truth. And while everything around you may seem to be changing, to be in constant movement, to be perhaps in chaotic patterns sometimes, in conflict and in strife and in drama and trauma, you can always just follow your breath, breathing the two most powerful words ever uttered in the English language, I am, and exhale, infinite, 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 and restore yourself to what is truly real, the truth that you are infinite. And everything outside of you, everything happening on the screen around you, is simply a projection of your holographic reality. It's simply like a cosmic viewing screen, so to speak. And today we're going to be going into that more based on what David Icke talked about. We had him here on the Infinite Human Talk Show twice, and we discussed his latest work, The Dream, his latest book. Beautiful, beautiful masterpiece of work. And what he talks about is also what I discuss in my way in the book, The Infinite Human. So basically, we live in a very fascinating time, because we live in a time when it's becoming more and more apparent that the truth is surfacing, and that what David Icke said is we are living in a simulation, really basically an artificially created AI, artificial intelligence created simulation, much the same way as when you look into your computer screen, but really it's projected in the world around you and comes about through your five senses. But and my point is, what I talk about in the Infinite Human, is that it's actually a simulation, an AI simulation that has hacked into our divine holographic template. Okay, so it's all hologram, it's all holographic expression of itself, which simply means that every part of the tiniest bit of it contains the sum total of everything, which is why I say you are infinite, all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. So perhaps to understand this better, we need to kind of take a few steps back and look at, and I have this in my book, the chapter, What is God? So we've been conditioned through religion to believe that God is something outside of ourselves. God the Father Almighty, a old man with a beard, a tyrannical, dictating, God that you must obey or you will be punished. And it's something like we're like small little children, and the truth is this is the false male tyrannical God that has usurped and again hacked into the prime creation, which is what David Icke refers to. Again, he talks about the simulated reality hacking into prime creation reality. And the prime creation reality, or the truth, since we're all kind of the awakening to truth now, truth has become very much part of our consciousness. The truth is that God is everything, all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. And I talk about that in my book. I refer to the fact that the word God actually means gooden, and it's a pro-Germanic word that means to invoke. But the question is, what or who are you invoking? So when I use the word infinite, because infinite is infinite, there's no limits to it. It's infinite. And or as we've learned, omnipresent, omnipotent. And omnipresent means present in everything. And this is what our indigenous brothers and sisters were telling us. This is what the ancients were telling us. This is what the Eastern philosophies have been telling us. God realization is realizing you are God and everything around you is God. So that is the truth. But we've had that prime creative truth, that organic divine hologram hacked into. Now, in the prime direct, creation, okay, in the divine hologram, the infinite is simply, like I said, all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. But it exists and creates, well, actually sparked sparked out, the electromagnetic, the part of K, part of Chi, part of Cum, creation. It was a trifold to know itself. The infinite exists to know itself, and that's what it wants to do. It wants to know itself. It wants to experience everything. It wants to learn, to grow, to expand, and that's what creation was all about. So I use the metaphor, being a writer, I call it the infinite, the divine storyteller, who creates stories. And stories are a way for us to know ourselves. Now, the truth is there is no time, but the infinite created the illusion of time so we could better know ourselves, because isn't that what a story is all about? And I refer to Joseph Campbell, in his work about the journey of the hero, which is the mythic structure behind every novel, every myth, every legend, every film we've ever seen. And he worked closely with George Lucas in developing Star Wars. So we see the journey of the hero at the beginning, Luke Skywalker, the reluctant hero who has a droid land, and the call to adventure is the princess, the hologram of the princess asking for help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, help me. And then he gets brought in, even though he finds Oben, he declines, as many of us do when the journey beckons us, when adventure calls, we say no, just like the Hobbit, no, don't come in to mess up my little Hobbit house, or no, I can't go with you, Oben, I'm a farmer, my uncle would get mad, and then he's forced into his adventure. So we are all these beautiful stories of adventure, and we've been going on and on and on infinitely, doing these stories of adventure. And because we all have free will, the infinite has allowed us to write our story further away, as far away from divine infinite source as we want to. In fact, to the point where there are many beings, we call them, fallen angelics, who have forgotten they even have source within them, have forgotten the goodness, the purity, the integrity of the oneness of all things. And because they have severed themselves from this, as I talk about in earlier, talk shows, they have basically cut themselves off from divine or the vine of life and are rotting and decaying because they can't feed from source. So they become parasitic and they have to feed from others. Now their mission is to find, these beings, these angelic beings like us, which we are true divine beings that feed from source, that breathe in and breathe out and connect with source. And then they hack into the reality to feed from them, to feed. And David, I talked about the loosh, which is they have to downgrade it to their frequency so they can feed off of the negativity. They need to feed off of emotions, but not emotions of love and peace and joy, because they can't digest that because they're fallen. They're much like in the Lord of the Rings, the orcs, or that are so deformed and so so malignantly infested that they cannot take in that pure essence. So they have to pervert it into pain, sorrow, fear, suffering. And that's what they've done with our planet. In fact, our whole time matrix, and they feed off of it. And that's how their life depends on that. So they've become extremely clever at that. So they have hacked into our organic divine reality, our prime creative reality. And as they bleed in, they do this through mind control and through using our creative energy to create a hell on earth for us, to create pain, to create suffering. And I write a lot about my book about, moving my own personal journey through life, and how every time, wonderful things were about to happen, there was kind of a sabotage, something that as soon as I started to reach a certain level of success, that I was knocked back down. And I think many of you that are listening to my voice are becoming aware of the fact that there has been a very corrupt, very perverted, very distorted, very evil, for lack of a better word, evil uh, group of men who have been running our planet. They've been running from secret societies, controlling the governments, controlling, basically dictating our educational structures, our military structures, our governmental structures, our medical structures. And they do this through money. And, we can have a whole long discussion about that. But I go into it in great detail in my book, The Infinite Human. And of course, David Icke was one of the first ones to ever even talk about that over 30 years ago. So when he was getting his, massive, awakening in Machu Picchu, I was the same year, 1990, I was writing, and the words, "There's emerging on the face of the earth a new human, an infinite human." And then my computer was struck by lightning. So I think that if you're listening to my voice, many of us have been planted all around the planet in many different cultures and countries, and we speak many different languages, but we all come from very, very high genetics, high God source worlds, to put it in basic terms. And we go by many names. We might go by, I like star seeds because it encompasses everything, or light workers, wanderers, Orpheans, indigos, aquafarians. There's so many different layers to this because we're multidimensional beings, and many of us come from other time matrices to help out now. And many of us don't have any idea who we are because we've been hidden. We've been mind wiped, and we've been hidden on purpose so we wouldn't know, so we could awaken and arise now to be the change on the planet. So you are the ones I am talking to. You're the ones, these, my voice is calling you in, waking you up, helping you to remember why you came here. And many of you have not been spiritual people, which perhaps is a good thing, because we're going to talk a little bit about spirituality, both religion or new age or whatever you want to call it, but how spirituality has actually been perhaps a way of worshiping our prison. So many of you many of you have contacted me. You are, you've been accountants, you've been, in the medical profession, but totally buying into the 3D reality of the simulation. And many of you have actually had this the whole scandemic cause you to awaken. It's been a catalyst for awakening. It's been a catalyst that's caused you to question your position in society, question those who you respected and allowed to educate you and direct you and guide you and give you legal counsel and follow their laws. So I think in many ways, even though we've lost over 1 billion people, according to Dr. Young, and it was very tragic, sometimes a lot of the growth, the most powerful growth, comes from really difficult, challenging experiences. And certainly the roaring 20s, as I call them, that these 20s have been extremely challenging times for the planet. But one of the good things that I'm going to focus on, because I think at this point it's time for us to focus on the positive, is that I don't know where you were during 2020 and the whole scandemic COVIDicity experience. I was in Italy, and as I told David Icke, I was very much in agreement with what he was saying, even though his voice was cut out. And I was trying to tell people what was really happening here. And what we had, something that I refer to as green pass up your ass. Unless you were jibby jabbed, vaccinated, you weren't allowed to go anywhere. You weren't allowed to do anything. And it was this had actually happened before, which caused me to move from Florence, Italy, and close my film school down to Sicily. And I just started craving nature. Even before this happened, I just started craving it. And I found that it was so healing to me and regenerative and restorative to my body. And so during the scandemic, since I wasn't allowed to go anywhere, except maybe just get some food, but I was lucky because the farmers grow stuff, so you can just buy stuff, or on my property, I can just pick things. So, I had wonderful food, but I spent more and more time in I guess what I have always had all my life. It's called, a hermit phase. I refer to the hermit card in the tarot, or just a phase that I think all initiates go through as they start their spiritual journey. And it's just kind of a self isolation, or I think people said I'm self what's that word, not lockdown, but self you just pull away from society and pull inward. And I spent all my time in my villa here, in nature, or swimming in the hot springs, or walking on the beach, or being with nature and myself and my own thoughts. And I think many of you have found that has happened in these past 4 years. If you're listening to me, many of you have lost friends that you thought were dear close friends from your past, from your childhood, from growing up, even family members. You just feel like the black sheep. You feel completely outside of their paradigm of reality. You just can't watch mass media, anymore. You can't, you can't do the consume work, and die scenario. You want more. There's something more, and you're not feeling that satisfaction that you used to feel, perhaps, going out and partying, or going shopping, shop till you drop, or engaging in all the arranged entertainment, the movies that are coming out now, which I can't watch. I like oldies, but the sports events, they just, it's not that they just have no interest. They hold no fascination for you anymore. And I think that's a very important thing that you have to come to. You just come to it. The saying of been there, done that, bought the t-shirt and burnt it. You just have done it, and you just begin to feel in your soul weary of this. You feel, and the truth is, you have done it thousands and thousands and thousands of times, millions of years, because we've been stuck in an artificial time loop, going around, maybe wearing different costumes. It's almost like Hollywood's such a good example. And I have a whole chapter on my book, Hooray for Hollywood. And I had a film school in Florence, Italy, trying to create new consciousness media. But, Hollywood, if you really look at the oldies, which are fascinating, even you go back in the silent era, almost every film's been remade at two, three, sometimes four times. I mean, over and over again. And but just different actors and different costumes. And that's pretty much what we've been living. And we've been calling it reincarnation, but we've been stuck in a time loop, living the same story many times with the same souls over and over again. And I think part of this awakening is, well, first step is you just kind of get tired of it, and you want to start recessing inward, retreating inward, and becoming mindful, processing all this, processing your thoughts, looking and examining what you were raised to believe, looking at these software programs, these programs that you are running in your mind, for like example, Princess programming, grow up. Hopefully you're pretty enough to marry well. I was looking at oldie, and that's just so prevalent in women's mind, to marry well, to marry a rich man, and then you have it made. Everything's perfect, and you still see that. I was watching an oldie last night, which was from, I don't know, the 30s or 40s, and then of course I think the Kardashians. I've never seen them, but I think they emanate that. And I always think it's funny because Kardashians were like this really fallen race of aliens on Deep Space Nine. But I guess I don't know if people make that connection. But that world of the glitz and the glamour of the Hollywood, of the materialism, it just wears thin, and you just can't do it anymore. And that's the first step. And then you begin to actually remember. You start waking up and remembering your alternate identities or past lives, and realize you don't want to do that anymore. And David Icke talked a lot about reincarnation and how it's part of the trap. They lure you back into the trap by getting you to reincarnate to work on something new. And then you begin to heal the trauma that created these separations in your identities, and you begin to remember all of them, and you realize they're all just one long story. All these are just different chapters in your lives, and many times you've been playing the same script, just with costume changes from maybe ancient Greek, ancient Rome, the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, the flapper period, so think about that, because we are all stories in the mind of God. So if that is true, then what is going on now? All right. And I'll talk when we get back. I'm going to take a short break, but what I want to talk about now is that the simulation is like the Truman Show. It's actually starting to glitch and fade, and this simulation, this hacked in reality. I've called it in other shows the Fibonacci spiral downward, is now releasing, and it's crumbling away. And the true Krystos spiral of life, which is returning us into alignment with prime creation and with infinite God source, is now every day becoming more and more dominant and prevalent, especially for those of us that are pulling our heads out of our asses now, okay, that are pulling ourselves, opening our eyes, becoming mindful, becoming awake, and with eyes to see what is really transpiring in front of us. And it is a fascinating time to be alive. And the more we start to actually pay our attention towards this expanding new prime creation, infinite source reality, the more we are creating that 100th monkey syndrome, so that more and more people can see it, and they can stop paying their attention to the finite Truman Show prison matrix that we have been in. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're just going to take a real short break, and we're going to talk about how to start now freeing ourselves from the matrix and co-creating a whole new infinite reality for ourselves. So we'll be right back.
Great job. All clear. Just going to save this file real quick.
Okay.
All right. I am ready for the next segment. Are we ready for the next segment?
Yes. And welcome back. Welcome back. This is Elizabeth Monroy with the Infinite Human Talk Show. And we are talking about the true. First of all, we're talking about what David Icke talked about last in some of our earlier shows. The fact that our reality is actually a simulation, and it has been like the Truman Show. To keep our consciousness contained in a very finite container, which actually has not been a very positive experience, because it's created a lot of loosh, which is created to feed parasitic entities, and it's created by our emotions, but emotions of fear, of anger, of sorrow, of pain, of suffering. And if you have trouble believing that, well, just look at sanity and insanity. I used to do a esoteric Renaissance walking tour. I actually ended up closing my film school because I said we can't really do a new consciousness Renaissance until people start waking up to the fact that this planet has been hacked into by very parasitic influences that are constantly parasiting and hacking into our reality and forcing us to create a reality that is not optimal for us. And when I met my tourists from all over the world, the first thing I asked them was, what do you think about the state of our planet? And whether they were from Russia or Rhodesia, whether they were from China or California, whether they're from South America or Guam, they all agreed that our planet was really messed up. And I'll tell you, it is not the norm. And it's not sane to kill, to have wars and kill your fellow human beings. It's not normal to have very wealthy people and to have places where people are starving to death. It is not normal to have, to have fake food that doesn't nourish and feed your body. It's not natural to be unhealthy. It's not natural to decay and grow old and die. It is not natural to have children, going missing on the milk cartons. It is not natural to have mothers murder their own children, or people go into schools and start unloading their semis, their guns. It is not normal to live in a planet where there's chemtrails and genetically modified foods and anyway, I think you guys get the message. I think I mean, everyone knows that it's not normal. That is not sanity. So we're getting back to sanity now. And I really believe that this simulation is starting to crumble. And if you look very carefully, at things like the government, the banking, the banksters and their banking structures, even the stock market, the religious structures, the educational structures. I think for many of us, especially the awakening ones, the star seeds, I'll just call, that's my catch-all term for everyone that is awakening. They hold no more fascination. In fact, we, like I said earlier, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt and burnt it. We just see through it. It's just so constrictive and boring, and we don't want to pay our attention to it anymore. And I think more and more people are beginning to realize that these structures are not working, they're decaying from within. And the more we don't feed those structures and we start taking our attention, our paying, our energy, and as David Icke so poetically says, attention, what is it? Well, I'll just say, what I say is the alchemical presence, thought directs energy. So, if you're putting your energy into something, you're paying with your attention. Well, I think we're just naturally are no longer even seeing the negative in what's around you is in some way feeding it. And I have chosen, although I'm aware of it, and if it's in my face, I'll point it out, but now at this point in the game, 4 years after, and I was very adamant about speaking out, as you can read in my book, The Infinite Human, the things I did during that time period. And, to everything turn, it was a time. But now we need to take all our energy and start beginning, first of all, to become aware, awakened, and mindful. I became just aware driving today of how much I go through the day either in the past or in the future in my mind. My mind is just racing and I'm thinking of all these things, I want to do and I got to get this done in this list and blah, blah, blah. And I'm aware that I'm not in the moment. And, even though I think spirituality has gotten to the point where it has actually become a trap and it leads us to the trap, there are breadcrumbs of truth in true spirituality. And one of them is being present, that mindful. One of them is meditation. I find that can be very useful because you can actually begin to connect more, put more of your attention inward on that divine infinite spark of creation and help dissolve and dissipate the hold that this world of illusion has. And the ancient Hindus always referred to the world Maya as the world of illusion. So those breadcrumbs of truth have been there. Meditate, be in it but not of it. So that's one of the first keys of beginning to loosen the grip of this external simulation. And David Icke had said, how do you, escape the matrix? And I heard him say, you stop identifying with the finite. And my saying is, to be infinite, you only need to let go of the finite. So if you can observe and position yourself in the external world more like a movie director, okay, more that you observe it happening around you, but you're not invested in it with all your emotions, which is what the ancients sages have truly been teaching. And then you can actually, and this is where it gets interesting, but because we're talking about, and I talked to David Icke about this, awakening in the dream. Okay. We're talking about lucid dreaming, because once you realize that this is a holographic projection that you are actually creating, you are creating your own reality. You create it when you walk up and you see this person that you've, had trouble with all the time. Maybe they're a person in a bureaucratic position, and you need to go to them to whatever, do something, and you go, oh God, this person right there, the program starts running again. I'm going to have trouble with this person. And you project that into their holographic template, and you guys play out the same. As I said, it's a remake of the same script over and over again. Likewise with other family members, or with the government, or with this, and we've been programmed to create scripts of victimizer. That's been the theme of every script written on this planet, and there's so much more. And we have to say, there's so much more, and I want it, and then take it. So that's how you start to shift your reality. And I know I write co-creators of the 5D Earth. That's on the cover of my book, and I have a chapter about it. And we all want to start, create a new Earth and create a better reality, but it starts within. We all know it starts inside ourselves. So part of it is, okay, the first phase of the hero's journey, if you're into ascension, is you have to pull back and start to cut those cords, detach from all these old programs that are running in this simulation, this artificial Truman Show reality, because you're just living in a fake finite world that's not real. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night. I mean, it's not real. You're just running around playing the same remake story over and over and over again. So meditation is good for that. Isolation, I spend so much time on my own in my beautiful home villa overlooking the Mediterranean Sea and olive groves and everything. And I've been gifted this, positioned in this. And I love it. I'm so happy when I'm on my own. And of course, at first I thought, oh, I'm so lonely. But you're never alone. Alone is teaching you to be all one. And it's freeing you to start experiencing your multi-dimensional nature, because you have so many people, so many families, members in the star seeds, in the stars, your star family. You have your twin soul, whether they're with you in the physical or not, they're with you always. You have so many great beings that are at your beckoning call, willing to help you and to just converse with you. I'm never alone, because I'm always talking to many different entities. And of course, in the 3D world, I'd be considered insane, but in an insane world, it's the sane ones who are considered insane. So I think many of you that are listening to my voice can relate to that. And that's really our true nature. We are clairvoyant, clairescent, everything. We have so many divine technological abilities. And, this AI thing is to kind of get us to start creating dependency on that. And today, I do have a cell phone, because I have used it because I do travel a lot and I don't know where I'm going, and nobody does maps or tells you directions anymore. So I'll hook it up to find out where I'm going. And today I didn't have it. And I said, whoa, I'm getting dependent on that. And I just said, no, I can find where I'm going. I can find it. And you don't want to put your attention in something finite, because and this is huge what I'm saying. Okay, so let's just take a minute to back this up here. Okay, what the next step is, all right, after you've disconnected from, people and places and things in the 3D, and you've gone inside and you're starting to build that connection. And I especially feel it about there's really high frequencies running right now on the planet. And I especially feel it at 3 a.m., the witching hour, till about the sunrise. Just, I feel it and it feels wonderful. I just let that energy bathe me, the rainbow plasma energy just infiltrate me and raise up my frequency. And then the next step is to start using it. And that means you start to trust yourself more than external systems. All right. And this is huge because we've been brainwashed, programmed since we went to the indoctrination nursery school, kindergarten, and on to the all the elementary on up to PhDs, to put our faith, our stock in external experts, in external sources, in external means, because they have the power over me. You have a spiritual question, run and ask your rabbi or your priest. You have a health issue, go to your doctor. Go to your doctor. Go to your doctor. All right. And I always say, don't believe me. I'm not a doctor. I'm a doctor's wife. So I know what I'm talking about. So, before we think, wow, can I heal myself? I remember once I was up in the mountains, an hour away. I was up in the Jemez, way far from Albuquerque, the nearest city with a hospital, or everything. And I cut my finger really bad. And I said, I'm all alone in the mountains. I can't drive myself an hour to wait in and who wants to be in one of those very toxic environments anyway? It's the worst thing you can do for healing. So I said, wait a minute, I'm a Reiki master. I'm an energy healer. So I did my own energy healing and healed better than it ever had. And I think we all have stories like this. And we need to start telling these stories and sharing these stories and empowering our own inner ability to heal ourselves. Likewise with education, you can get some information in books, and nowadays there's some good writers like me, David, and other people are writing some very interesting stuff that pique that start to open pathways in memories, videos too, that. And that's the reason I'm talking, is to open your own pathways so you can start trusting what you're getting, trusting the downloads you're getting, trusting the information you're getting. And I'm more to come, but I do have in the works the Infinite Human University, which is about you learning about you and learning to trust your own intuitive, creative abilities. And then the next thing is, and I heard Jane Evershed, I really hope to get her on the show, talk about the true currency is creation currency. And we are the creators of our own reality. So once we free ourselves from these programs, from these negative, finite, victimizer programming, then we're free to use our creativity, not to create loosh and negative experiences to feed these parasites. They'll starve to death because we'll be so blissful and happy and flowing. How many times have you done something that you just love to do, that was just maybe so creative, you were so absorbed in a vision, or perhaps painting something, or writing something, or telling a story, or building something, that time just it seemed to not pass or stand still. It was like you could have been there for hours and you wouldn't even know it. And you were in such a high vibratory frequency and a blissful state because you were so passionate about what you were doing. Now that's creation. And when you do that, you create something so amazing and so wonderful. And that is what we need to be sharing. That needs to be the currency. I create something magnificent and I share it with you. And in return, you share something magnificent with me. And that's how they do it in the God source worlds. So just looking at my time here. Okay, so we have just a few more minutes, but I hope that gives you some foundation for beginning to move out of this. But I promise you, even though at moments it feels like your world is shattering, and you're like, well, what do I do? I don't want to do anything anymore. I mean, I don't wanna hang out with my friends, my family. I mean, I don't even want to go to family gatherings really. The things that I used to love to do, don't give me any kind of excitement anymore. And it's much like a child that looks at their old toys, and with fondness, but they just don't want to play, Tinker Toys anymore. And that's fine. Let it go. Let it go. And this is a period where many of you are perhaps just letting things go. It really is that time, because as you let them go, as they wash away, these are also programs, and there's grieving that goes with that. That's part of it. But as they do something wonderful, I promise you, and this is where you have to have the faith. Faith is believing until you know. It's not just always having blind faith. You have to trust that there is a plan here, and there is a divine plan. And then one day you will just be able to see the world around you. Perhaps it's the same thing you looked at day after day after day, but with new eyes, with new awarenesses. You'll be able to see new colors in the sky. You'll be able to see perhaps with eyes that are much more awakened, and with your third eye, you'll be able to see beings that were always there for you and with you. You'll see the shackles of these overlays, these metatronic reversals that have been impending, caging your pineal and creating all kinds of miasma in your body and in your sexual organs. There's a lot of implants there. They're all dissolving away, and you're able to restore your 12 strands of DNA and your divine catharic grid, and connect in a much deeper way to infinite source and be fed. And nowadays, I was talking about, beginning to shift your faith, and your power really into external sources. And I think last week, David, I talked about, putting your power into like a president who's going to make all your problems go away because he's going to fix this and fix that and fix that, or like a doctor who's going to heal you. I'm not saying, I have a team that I brought to me that is really helping me heal and bringing me to transmute my physical body and restore, by bringing bioregenesis to me. And I'm not saying you don't get external help. I'm just saying you don't put your power in that. Now, how do you not do that? Well, the first thing I do is when I need something, let's say I need someone, a good massage therapist, or let's say I need someone who is going to help me, in my work to put together, my children's book that's coming out, or whatever. I need someone to clean my house. It doesn't matter. I first go to infinite source, and I get really clear about what I want, the kind of energy, what kind of job I want done, how I want things to unfold. And I can see that. And it goes beyond, the secret of just visualizing, but I'm asking infinite source within me. I'm shifting that into my holographic blueprint template, my holographic reality, and I'm loading it in there. And so and then I'm asking infinite source to bring in the right, energies in terms of people, places, things, whatever it is I need. But I'm asking infinite source. I go to infinite source first, out, in, wherever, within, all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. I ask infinite source first, and then I wait. I don't, okay, well, Monday, it's not here. I, it's in divine time. It's not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's, and I have faith that it's coming, and I keep, if it's not there, I imagine it, more. I pull it in. I say, I'm pulling in these people. I'm pulling in this healing team, for example. And I had one person that was working, I was working with them on my body, and they said, well, bye, I don't want to work with you anymore. I'm like, what? And I was so upset. And it was several months ago, and I went without having the body work that I really had grown used to. But I just had faith. I said, something better is coming. And then just out of the blue, I just said, do you know someone and that can do this, and a massage therapist, and yes, blah, blah. And the next thing I know, I found the most wonderful person for right where it was that I needed. So we got to get our brains out of the way of thinking it has to look and be like this. We just have to ask and you shall receive. Ask and you shall receive. Ask and you shall receive. It's really true. But ask infinite source. Go to the highest, which is infinite, and ask for what you need, and then let it come to you. And you have to feel worthy. So you have to, part of it is getting rid of these old programs. And believe me, we've been traumatized into believing we're unworthy. There's something wrong with us. We're sinful. We're bad, especially the women, and I read about that in my book, The Infinite Human. So, with that said, I think that what I gave you is good enough to get you on the right track. Um, Again, it's in my book, The Infinite Human. I just did a second edition. I'm really moving people toward Ingram now. And if you go to my website, www.infinitehuman.com, you will find those little, I think they're little Q codes that, will take you to Ingram where you can buy them. Because I see where Amazon's going. And 2 years ago, I was criticized because I was telling everyone that my book's on Amazon. I said, for now. And they said, but Amazon's a big, I said, well, yeah, it is. But Amazon at that time was doing, and David Icke talked about that, they were actually printing books for less, and delivering them because they're funded by the cults, by the the families that run the planet. And they were running the small publishers out of business, unfortunately. And so now what they're doing, that they've gotten so many people hooked on Amazon. I know Amazon's great for many things, but they're destroying authors, really, because what they're starting to do, I can sense it, is they're going to start, all the books they're going to be selling are going to be AI generated. They're going to push those up to the front and really start pushing this AI agenda to get you reading books, having artificial intelligence writing the books that you're reading. And, so I'm going towards Ingram. And also I'm coming out with my children's books, a little series. I have the little Seed, that's beautiful, very romantic, very, very tender story about two trees that fall in love. So if you have little people, on the ascension path, that's a wonderful one. It's really a story of twin souls. So, or big people. And then I'm just about to come out with, in the next week or so, the little cow who refused to be hamburger. Very powerful message to little people about breaking away from the herd and, following your heart's desire to freedom. And beautiful story, illustrated by a wonderful artist in Florence, Italy, Italian American. And then the little shell, which are about shells sitting on a beach, afraid to be crunched to death. And it really gives a strong message to children that there is no death, and it's a good time to have that. So that will be coming out in hard copies on Ingram, because Amazon doesn't offer that for children's books. So so Ingram, and I just, we also have a really good book about divine inner healing that I wrote with my twin soul, Peter, who was a board certified obstetrician gynecologist. It's called The Pathway Home. And those are beautiful books that inspire. And I know so many people are saying, well, you do audiobooks, and I have done an audiobook of everything, and I will be putting them out. But, I really want to get things so that we're not always on the net, in the net. I do a talk show, you hear stuff. I understand people don't have time to, sit and read a book, but that's part of the it's a meditation when you read a book, when you see the images in your mind, when you let the words absorb. We're getting part of that fast pace is really uh, part of the Truman Show, part of the Matrix. Working so fast. I think Americans are the worst of all. And I have that inside me. I come here and I'm in Sicily, and I'm actually, the more I live here, the happier, healthier, and more peaceful I am. But when I first came here, it was horrible because I was like, I need this right now. Let's get this done. And their concept of time, because time is an illusion. But they'll wake up, they'll go out in the morning and do a few things, and then 1:30 everything stops, closes tight, and then they have their nice restful lunch. They take a little siesta, then they might have coffee to wake up, and they go back out for a little while, 4:30, and do a little work, and then come home and, spend time with family. The kids come home for lunch from school. The moms are waiting there to pick them up and take them home and make them a hot meal, and everything closes tight on Sundays, for sure. And then every other day is a Saints Day or a holiday. So work, and then there's all these festivals going on, so I love it. I love living in Italy. I do, and it's taught me so much. And the dolce vita, enjoying your life and living it on your own terms. I think that's the name of the game right now. So you really have to free yourself from the program. And if you're saying, "Oh yeah, well, that would be nice if I had the money," well, right there, that's a program. Okay, you have just bought into your own enslavement, because I can't tell you how many things I've done with absolutely no money whatsoever. Thought directs energy. If you do what you're passionate about, if you follow your bliss, if you follow your dream, the energy, the money energy has to come. It's just alchemical um, directives. I mean, it is. And so that's the first thing you have. If you're saying, I can't do it someday when I have the money, they've got you just where they want you, in the poverty consciousness, in lacking faith that you are infinite, all that is, ever has been, and ever, ever, ever shall be. So I hope that helps. All right. And I'll see you next week. Ciao for now.
Great job. All clear.
Okay, thank you so much. So this will be up